What is going on, everybody? Collective Podcast here, Season 2, Episode 4. We have Vish in the house. Vish, how is life?
Life's good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's been new with you? I feel like I haven't seen you in a while.
There's been a lot of things going on, a lot of good things. As you may know, some or have some idea about. I'm a conservative activist, Republican activist in New York City. I know it's like a dying breed out here, but
well, that's Staten Island.
But I'm a Staten Island guy, so I have some inroads with that. So I'm trying to do some new things, bring some new ideas around, maybe affect the culture a little bit. So as of recent. I've recently been elected the vice president of the New York Young Republican Club.
Big congrats!
Thank you. So that was a big, was definitely a big win for me. A couple of us got together. We thought, you know what, the youth movement here needs a new scene. So we figured maybe if we tried to run for leadership at this club and take it over, introduce some new ideas, we could get that done. So we did that there. That was about 2 weeks ago, and we're already going fast. We have a brand new website, brand new social media, content strategy. We have a couple of socials lined up, a couple of events, some cool speakers. We're gonna have Kat Timpf and Drew Murdoch.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so we're really trying to step up the game, trying to raise the standard of the experience and the lifestyle that we're trying to provide at the club for other conservatives and Republicans in New York City who want to get involved or who want to maybe just hang out with some conservatives in their area that maybe they just don't know. Right? You're in New York City.
Oh, of course.
you don't even know if there's other people thinking like you. So we're trying to be more visible and try to give people the idea and understanding that there is a place for them, and they can come join us. So we're taking new memberships. Visit our website, newyorkyr.com, and you could join or just keep up with events and stuff. And yeah, we're trying to build up the grassroots, man. That's the only right way to do politics in my eyes.
When did you first fall into your views? Like, what was that first pivotal moment for you that you felt like, wow, I feel like I have a future in doing what I'm doing now?
Well, it's interesting because they call that there's this red pilling process.
Thanks, Candace Owens.
yeah. I'm a fan of Candace, she's not the first one to really say that. She kind of took that and really made it hot.
Right.
If anything, she sort of brought that into the mainstream with her image and her identity. But everyone sort of has that story. That story where their eyes get opened or whatever. And for me, it was a little slower of a process. There were a few things that had to sort of fall in line in order for that to happen. First thing is that I've always had a job since I was like 13 years old, right? So I was I used to deliver the Staten Island Advance when I was 13. I was a paper boy when newspapers were still a business.
When there was actually a newspaper and not like 2 pages of just nonsense and nothing.
Exactly. So there, when the newspaper was still, alive, I was the delivery boy. It was like $3 a week to maintain your subscription. I would go around collect, and it was like maintaining your own business. So that was like that was my experience when I was 13, and by the time I was 16, I was already bussing tables and being a waiter at the Excelsior Grand. Did that?
Oh, that's a big line of responsibility over there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
that's no easy challenge.
Absolutely not. They, they have their own high standards. They were on My Sweet 16, and they do a lot of high profile events on the island.
You probably worked there when the MTV was like covering it over there too.
Yeah, no, that was
an event there.
Yeah, exactly. The My Super Sweet 16.
Exactly.
Yeah. There was. I think I joined right after, like maybe like just a couple months after.
Got it.
So, did that. I was a high school dropout as well. So like around 18, I went to Brooklyn Tech, dropped out.
I got you.
But I've always had a job. I still managed to get into Hunter. I got my GED like as soon as I dropped out. Got into Hunter College. At the same time, I got a job at a doctor's office as like doing electronic electronic medical records and data entry and stuff. And the whole point being that I've always been employed my whole life, like since a very young age, So the whole idea of work and work ethic and earning your dollar and stuff, that's sort of like a no-brainer, kind of like secondhand to me. So when somebody says something like, you deserve a proper wage even if you don't work, like that doesn't compute with me, and even even as I went through all these these jobs and stages in my life where I might have either felt like I was working too hard, or the system's beating me down, or whatever it may be. I was never really too political in itself, even though I was always interested in politics, and I was always interested in knowing what's going on. I always considered myself an independent, a free thinking type. I thought I was too cool to be called a Democrat or a Republican. You know what I mean?
We all got a phase like that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm better than that. So I always felt that way. My views are what I believe is better. I don't have to pick sides. Like, that's.
They're all on my side.
Exactly right. So that was sort of how I grew in. Most of what I believed was around like hard work and stuff. And then after I got academically dismissed from Hunter. So once that happened, I went to Kingsborough Community College. Finally got my associates in liberal arts over there, and around the same time, I got into some of my own troubles. I wasn't exactly an angel, and I got arrested, for some weed and some shrooms and stuff like that, and that's where my life really started to. I would say it took a slight downturn. It was a time for me to like think about who I am and what I'm able to do, and really I didn't have an answer. So. And all I have is, I was a high school dropout, only have an associate's in liberal arts. Like, I sound like a Starbucks barista already. So, that
I say the same for Christian all the time.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, once all that happened, I decided, I'm going to go work for my uncle in D.C. He had a very successful IT software staffing business, and this was around 2014. I moved to end of 2014. I moved down to DC, and I just start learning the trade, like just making minimum wage, living in some. Can I curse on here? No?
Oh yeah, of course.
Some shithole apartment in like Greenbelt, Maryland, and just trying to teach myself a trade. Some tool that I could turn around and market and make myself a professional out of. And that actually was going well, but there were some things that I started to, working with. My uncle did a lot. His company did a lot of work with the federal government, providing IT services to the federal government. And I was involved in those teams trying to secure that business or trying to find the requirements for that and whatnot. And I got a first-hand view of like how you do business with the federal government.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is a scam. There was a lot of funky things that go on there. This is the first place I learned of this business. I guess management idea called capture management. And capture management is basically like, how do you find out about certain contracts happening or being offered before they're actually out there. There's like a whole like school of business around this idea of getting information when you're not supposed to.
Web.
Yeah. It's just like it's a totally different world out there, and you sort of see this like crony stuff happening, crony capitalist stuff happening, so and even then Barack Obama's president, and me, I'm just like, oh, in my mind, I have no belief in the government at this point. I'm like, oh, government's running another scam with all our tax money with these federal things to get their homies rich or their friends rich. Okay, tell me something.
Same old.
Same old, right? And then another part is working in this IT stuff and especially with IT staffing, and I'm of Indian background, Hindu heritage and all that. as you know, a lot of people that come over here are on H-1B visas. These like genius visas where it's just used to like import a whole bunch of tech workers.
Right.
And I sort of got to see the behind the scenes stuff on that and see how that's actually brought about and stuff. And what I saw I didn't really like.
Do they move the paperwork like faster than they should? Is it one of those things?
Let's say this, and this is not particular to any company I worked with. I'm not trying to put anybody under the bus or anything like that. I think this is just like an industry standard once you get into the weeds of like how this happens with these companies. Everyone's aware of the lottery system.
Yeah.
Right? The lottery system. But then you find out that there's some companies out there that have like 100% success rate or like a 95% success rate on the visas they apply for. Sound like a lottery to you?
That's a little
yeah. That's
it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and that's one thing. And then there's other things that you see like people sort of like fudging visas and stuff like that, or fudging their backgrounds and whatever, just to get by USCIS and just get the visas, right? I mean, like how many software professionals does USCIS have that can vet these people and make sure that they're the software geniuses they say they are, right? And it's like, how expensive is it to keep a team like that always reviewing? So they don't, or they just do a very poor job at it. And honestly, you get a lot of people who are coming in on these genius visas. They're not geniuses, and they're getting buy-in. They're getting in on any other standard except merit, which is what it's supposed to be. It's a merit-based, visa, and in practice, it's not. And that was like one big thing that I saw. I was like, this can't stand forever. Like, somebody's gonna get pissed at this. Like,
Sure.
It's just it can't continue. And so that was and so like that was sort of starting to build up in my mind and everything. And eventually I managed to right around the same time I started seeing all this started to coalesce in my brain. Donald Trump announces his run for president, and obviously nobody for me it was just like the birther guy like
So you knew about the commercials before anyone else
yeah did. Exactly it was like whatever, Donald Trump's Donald Trump, he's crazy guy, he'll just do whatever so then I start so then whatever, I put it back to my mind, I'm over here on a mission in DC trying to fix myself, trying to become a professional, and eventually that that goes well into December of 2015. I finished my first contract with Western Union and whatnot, and then from there I was like, I want to come back to New York. I want to see if I can find a job out here and continue my professional life back home where I'm from. Born and raised in New York. I don't really know anything else. So I do get a job here with an excellent company, number one in its space. It's a career, right? Like I'm pretty much almost making six figures. So and at that time when I get the job offered to me, it was 1 week before my 24th birthday. Or 25th birthday. My 1 week before my 25th birthday. So now I'm almost like making six figures as a professional, and I'm like 25 years old.
Oh my god!
Right? and it's like February 26th.
0 to 100.
Yeah, exactly. Right, from like from nothing to, or like at least somebody with my background wouldn't get that far.
Right.
Just if they come out of college, 4-year degree and all that, put in their work, they would probably have to intern and all that, a couple of years, and now they're 25 making like 60 grand
it's like
a year.
Its own category of a cesspool.
Yeah, exactly, so for me I was just like, if you really want something and you really are willing to put in the work, sacrifice for it, go out there, do it's possible. Anybody can fix themselves and do good for their life. And that's another layer of like adding to like how I see the world. It's because I sort of made a success out of myself. Now, of course, with the help of my uncle, who said, "Yeah, I'll give you a job. You can come here and learn." And but in a year, I turned that into a career.
Right.
So, around like I start working the job, and it's great. I'm loving it. I'm sitting in a skyscraper in the middle of New York City and all this, and the debates are happening. And that's and that's the primary debates, and all of a sudden I hear like I think I heard Donald Trump say something like he said something to the effect of, the reason we're all gonna be we're gonna be fucked soon, or something to that effect. We're gonna be totally screwed.
Oh, Joe Rogan talked about that.
Oh yeah.
I remember this whole thing.
Yeah, he's like, we're gonna be screwed because the Fed is gonna raise its rates or something. He was talking about how the Fed is like manipulating the rates and everything and we're gonna be screwed when they push the button a certain way. And for me, growing up, I always knew about the Fed. I was one of those conspiracy theorist types. The Fed rules the world. And audit the Fed, right? Ron Paul revolution. Like I paid attention to it. I knew the taglines. I'm not saying I was like a Ron Paul guy or anything, but
yeah.
But we all had that idea that like the central banking cabal was like doing this shady stuff. And when I heard Donald Trump say that, I was like, whoa, this guy's gonna get shot. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's pretty ballsy. Let me keep paying attention to him. And he, and then he started talking about the immigration stuff and how, like, there's a problem with the immigration system as a whole and it needs reform. And then that, like, triggers me back to thinking about what I saw behind the scenes in a lot of these IT companies and whatnot. And, I start putting two and two together, and I also start seeing him talk about the PC culture and all that. And the PC culture thing, that actually goes back to I've always loved arguing on the internet, even before Donald Trump.
I have a side question to that. Do you feel like there's always been PC culture, even like decades after decades from before?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually what is gonna, it sort of goes into this, because even before Donald, anyone thought of Donald Trump running for office or this whole idea of PC, snowflake, whatever, I was always one to argue online with people about stuff. And I was arguing with somebody. It was about race, something about race, and it was, even though I considered myself independent, I always sort of like leaned to the left. I voted for Obama as soon as I could in 2012. Why? Because it was like, oh, well, he's a black guy, I'm a brown guy, and that's, that's like, it makes sense, It's just a very low IQ way of thinking about it. That's eventually I come to realize. But what happened was I was arguing with somebody on the internet, and they said something like, well, they said something like white people are like are evil, or they're straight killers, or something like it was something very.
Who said that? I know, I heard that.
It was just a random like person on the internet I was arguing with.
Okay.
Like lefty, like just like what I've come to realize, that person was a leftist, and I agree, because they were like on the Obama. It was like on an Obama poster or something, and they were like. They said something full on support of Obama. I just like questioned it a little, and they brought up this whole thing about like, oh well, white people are doing this and blah blah blah, and for a moment there I just paused, right? And again, this is before Donald Trump and all this stuff.
Sure.
A moment there I just paused, and I was like, all right, let me take out the word white for a second in this, whatever this statement is. I'm just going to replace it with the word black. How does this statement read out to me, right? And I read it out, and I was like, that's fucking racist. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, well, if I believe racism is wrong, and you can't just judge people by the color of their skin and stuff, well, this statement I can't really let slide. I have to call it out.
Yeah.
So I called it out. I was like, hey man, that's racism. Like you can't just go around accusing whole races of people of doing stuff. You can't just attribute that to a whole collective of people. And they hit me with the response was, well, you can't be racist against white people. Reverse racism doesn't exist. And that's when I was like, whoa.
Exactly.
I was like, wait a minute. There's something wrong here, right? I don't know what it is, but this, there's no way that this can go on for too long. You can't talk like that about people for too long without them eventually getting angry.
Of course.
And you can't just keep beating on a whole collective of people based on something immutable, something they can't change, and then expect for them to be like, okay, yeah, you're right, we're all evil. It's like, it doesn't happen that way. And so I was just like, that's gonna go somewhere that I don't really like. So I'm not gonna participate in that, right? So again, and then that was all before I went down to DC and all that. But that was, again, something sitting in the back of my mind.
Sure.
So when Donald Trump comes out and he's like, I'm against PC culture, immigration, and all this, and I'm putting it together, I was like, oh man, this guy's the freaking reckoning. You know what I mean? This is it's the reckoning. When you push all your big problems into a closet and you're trying to hide it away, eventually the closet gets, because you're not addressing it, the closet gets bigger, and then eventually it bursts out, it opens. All your problems spill out.
Well, when he said that our culture is too politically correct in one of the first few debates,
yeah,
it kind of spoke volumes to me as somebody who's more of a middle down the road type of guy, and I'm like, he's got a point.
Yeah, exactly. It's and that's we call it politically correct or whatever. It's straight up censorship, right? And you're seeing it more and more now. Now it's out in the open. They're you have all these media companies, these really it's the tech companies that are the problem of the future. The universities and the tech companies. These two entities are a major problem, and you're seeing the censorship play out now, right?
Well, look at Facebook. Facebook just censored Alex Jones, Milo, and
PJW, Paul Joseph Watson,
and Louis Farrakhan, which was shocking.
Louis Farrakhan. I feel like that was a throwaway for them. It's you're just not banning right wingers.
Yeah.
But then you can argue again that Louis Farrakhan is a right winger for black people or Nation of Islam people. So don't get into the weeds of the ideology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't.
That was surprising to me. I was like, one of these things doesn't stand. One of these things is not like the other. Which one stands out to me? And it was Louis Farrakhan, because it was Alex Jones and Milo are kind of the same. Right. They troll people.
And there's again, this is something that was done in the Creepy Line. It's a documentary about Facebook and Google and how they're manipulating search results, what we see, and how they use that to manipulate democracy, right? And the way they convince you that that they're not biased in their search results is they won't put all 10 as biased results. They'll put the top 3 as biased results, and then the fourth one as a bias of the other side. And when you see that, you're gonna be well, this can't be biased because they're showing me another side.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a similar mechanism going on in there when they throw in a Farrakhan in order to wipe out Alex Jones or Milo and Paul Joseph Watson and Laura Loomer and all these people.
Sneaky.
They're doing it to Crowder now.
Yeah, Crowder with YouTube. They keep pulling his stuff down.
Yeah, look, man, they do not. It's all about king making. It's all about, and this sort of gets into my eventual involvement with politics itself, right? Because we could get back to about censorship and whatnot, because this is one of the main reasons actually why I joined the movement or why I got active into politics. And one of the very first things that somebody asked me is why are you here at this Young Republican meeting, right? My very first one my very first one that I went to, and what I said was, I'm a huge believer in the First Amendment, and I believe free speech is under attack. That's why I activated myself to get involved, to do more than what I'm doing now, to actually help and contribute to protecting this thing. So when eventually Donald I don't think Donald wins the nomination, but I think maybe Hillary wins the nomination at this point. And the whole like Bernie Sanders thing and how they fixed
the DNC.
Oh yeah.
with the DNC, all of that came out. And I'm not gonna say, there was a part of me that liked Bernie as well for being like an insurgent, anti-establishment type.
Pretty much a disruptor at that point.
Disruptor at that point, just like Donald, right? If I have to pick a Democrat, I don't want Hillary. Maybe I'll take a Bernie. For a Republican, Jeb, no. Maybe I'll think about Donald
Even
Trump.
Republicans don't like it.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah. So
Please clap.
yeah, it's very low energy, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing with the DNC happens, and I'm like, oh my God! And I made a Facebook post. I was like, if the DNC is going to do this and they're going to follow through with Hillary as their candidate, you cannot take this party or anything they do seriously.
Oh yeah.
Right? You have to vote for Donald Trump just on the pure basis that you can't validate what the DNC did to Bernie and to get Hillary to win. You can't give them a vote.
Yeah.
To and be like you're it's okay, you can totally fix who I'm supposed who my representative for president is going to be, or for a candidate. You can't just, I'm going to vote for you even though you fixed it. You completely went against the will.
I wonder if they're going to get rid of superdelegates this time around.
They changed the rules, so
again.
This time
that's what I heard.
This time what they did is like they can't commit prior to the convention, but at the convention, it can go. The delegates only have to commit to their first vote, right? So when they'll have a first vote on amongst the delegates who the nominee should be. If there's like a deadlock or there isn't a clear winner, then they're no longer obligated to stick to whoever they were supposed to represent their vote for. They can vote for whoever they want. So this can backfire. This can work really well. We don't know yet. And we could talk about how that might go if you want to get into the the Democrat nominations and stuff. Think of a nightmare scenario where
Kamala Harris.
imagine 5 candidates split the primary results evenly, right? And that means that, right, or something evenly where they all have a good chunk of candidates to come to the convention to negotiate with. Well, the delegates are going to sit in a room. They're like, okay, everybody vote, and they all vote. It's dead, right? Because there's 5 different camps, so it's going to fail immediately because no one has a clear majority. No one has a majority. Maybe somebody has a plurality, but maybe not enough plurality to actually be the nominee, right? So now, boom, first vote is dead. Now everybody's free to vote for whoever they want.
Then it's a free-for-all.
It's either a free-for-all or the establishment makes all of its phone calls like everybody get behind Kamala.
Right.
That's a scary snenario.
And then nobody gets their Bernie or whatever anyway. Or their Tulsi or whatever, their booty jig or whatever. Whatever the guy, whoever it is, So yeah, once I saw that, I made a Facebook post. I was like, if you have to vote for Donald Trump, just so you can't validate this technique that the DNC pulled, and everybody, all my friends,
he jumped on you.
Yeah, I went to one of the best high schools in the city. All my friends growing up, these are really smart people. Of the upper echelons of at least the brain capacity, in New York City, and all of them turns like, you're crazy. You're insane. What is the matter with you? You would vote for that guy? I was like, you would vote for this crazy lady and this crazy party that did this crazy thing?
And they all know she's been crazy for most of her life.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, you can't, okay, maybe Donald and Hillary's crazy, but like the party itself is like shitting on you, right? They're taking your vote and like spitting it out and saying, no, you're going to vote for whoever we say. Right, at the very least, like the Republicans, it's like
it was fair game.
It was right. It was clear fair game. It was clear that they hated him. The establishment hated him, but they still got the nomination. Right, because they honored the rules. Right, I guess our primary voters want him. All right, okay.
I guess.
I guess they hate him, but they honored the rules. They let the process play out, and they got a nominee. DNC, on the other hand, just took shit on the democratic process. So everyone calls me crazy. I was like, oh my God, you know what? I'm going to start rooting for this guy, Trump. I start rooting for him. I start losing friends left and right. I was like, you know what? I can't wait to see the results. Election day happens. He wins.
What a night that was. Oh.
See, even though on a lot of cases I'm more left-leaning, like on quite a bit of issues, I even said to myself that night, Trump's going to win.
Yeah.
Trump's definitely going to win.
I mean, I just felt like there's no way that anybody was gonna. First, Americans just don't vote status quo forever. You know, they always want something new, something different.
And then half of America doesn't vote.
And then half of America doesn't vote. Right. We're talking about and right now we're talking about the electorate itself, right? Like
right.
The actual voting public.
Turnout, I think, was, if I remember, like 57, 54, around that percentage of the full who was able to vote. Was able to vote. It was like 54 to like 57% of Americans.
And it's honestly, it's not enough. And if there was a full turnout, well, I mean, the Democrats would probably win. You know, that's another thing we gotta consider. But you know, whatever. The turnout is the turnout, right? Fact of the matter is, Donald Trump won. We knew that there was something wrong with our society, our government. There was a lot of things that were just happening. And now another thing is the WikiLeaks stuff that was dropping. Right, I was paying close attention to that, and I was just like, oh my God, this is a freaking, you know, this is a crazy shell game, you know. So watching that happen, I was just like, oh, Donald's got to win no matter what. Like, and he wins, right? Now, he wins, and I'm thinking, okay, it's all over. Donald Trump wins. We all come together as a nation. We sit down. We figure it out. What's going? You know,
gets worse.
You know, we face reality, and we're like, what's going on with our nation? What's happening? Let's like figure this. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's figure this out. We move forward, right? And the exact opposite happens. Yeah. They like jump into denial, right? And it's not just them. It's the whole like mainstream media apparatus. Like all these institutions are like now overtly just turning around being like, that guy's illegitimate. Russia.
It's still happening.
It's still happening, right.
Yeah. They got proven wrong. And they're like, oh, the report's not like... Maxine Waters was like, I don't need a damn report to know that he...
and I'm just like... Me, that's ridiculous.
And I'm just like, what?
From now, see, this is me seeing this 2 years ago. Now I'm just like, oh, well, you know, of course she says that. You know what I mean? I'm way past the whole...
Yeah.
I'm way past the whole, oh, that's ridiculous, Maxine. You know, come on. You don't no, stop trying to convince these people. You know what I mean? They're playing a game. You know? As soon as I saw that like everybody's sort of turned up to a level 1,000 on this whole the resistance, you know what I mean? Oh. And just started combating this president every day, on every single front, every day. I was like, oh my God, this is not going to end well. You know, there's going to be problems. So that's when I was like, you know what? I Googled Young Republicans in New York City, and I found the Staten Island Young Republicans.
Now I have a question as you're getting yourself into the Young Republicans and you're debating with people back and forth. What do you think frustrates you more? People on the left or conservatives that don't like Trump?
I think that's actually a really good question. I think it frustrates me more to speak with like leftists or liberals or whatnot. Conservatives who don't like Trump, I can understand why, but for me, then what I have to contend with is I just have to convince them that the fight is more serious than what they think it is.
Got it.
Right? That's my challenge with conservatives who don't like Trump, is that they're not understanding the depth of the fight, and that's why they can't get themselves to like Trump and what Trump is doing. With leftists, I mean, it's what you're dealing with is like a reality distortion field that you're trying to break. You know, that's a way harder. That's a way harder, you know, lift. You can't. It's harder to get past that when my favorite, right? Especially me growing up, like I was sort of always like an anti-establishment conspiracies and all, you know. I don't like the government, right? I don't trust the government, you know. Like, and a lot of lefties that I know growing up young, they're all like this, you know what I mean? They don't trust the government. They don't like the government. They think both sides are crap. Everything, right?
It's the Occupy movement.
Right, exactly. So then I turn around to them. I'm like, okay, so why wouldn't you vote for the people who say they like literally want to give you smaller government, like, you know, remove the government impediments that you think are authoritarian to you, that you think are ruling you, you know? Oh no, that's out of the question. Instead, they're going to vote for a party that literally promises to grow government, right? And so this sort of hypocrisy is something I just can't, like, you know, it's hard to sort of, and I'm telling you, it's like you don't like government. I am promising you less government. Why? How is this so hard for me to convince you? You know, and that's.
So
do you think that with Donald Trump's election there was a ripple effect that caused people like Ocasio-Cortez and what's her name, Ilhan Omar to become elected?
Yeah. Oh, it's yeah. Well, dude, it's the vacuum, right?
Yeah.
It's the ultimate signal. Look, in my opinion, Donald Trump is the greatest president to ever serve, and he got that status the day he won, right? You had this guy came out of nowhere. He essentially made very little promises or deals with the establishment and took the highest office in the land. The guy, if anything, he's a trailblazer, a doorbuster, right?
And he was their donor
right.
for a long time.
He was their donor, too. He was actually, Trump, man, this is where, like, you know, we can argue about if Trump's really establishment or not. Trump is actually one of the first guys to bring billionaires to D.C., right? So he sort of got that billionaire into politics culture started. That was him. But, you know, he was basically the doorbuster for taking on essentially hijacking a party apparatus for your own purposes. You know, if essentially he showed that if you have the right message, you don't even need all the money, right? Hillary spent way more money than Donald.
Yeah, she outspent him like 2-1.
She had every connection throughout the political world and nationally, internationally. He didn't, right? But he showed you didn't need any of this stuff to win. If you knew the people, you could win. You know. And as soon as he win, he gave that signal, right? That signal of disruption. That like, hey man, I'm in here. So, okay, you got to be maybe a billionaire reality TV star, celebrity, in lieu of being a lifetime politician to get the presidency, right? Well, what do I need to be a congressman then? Probably not much, right? Like,
just the message.
Yeah, you know. So if you scale that down. Right? What kind of background if I wanted to run a Trump-like candidacy, what kind of background do I need?
And think of it this way too: Trump only has a bachelor's degree.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't even know that.
Exactly, he only has a bachelor's. So if you scale that down, it's like, well, what do I need to be in order to be a congressman? Well, AOC showed you could just be a bartender.
You know? Bachelor's degree in political science.
Yeah, and she worked for Ted Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which people don't really know. Like, I don't understand, like, if you're, like, a real smart political, why you don't put more weight on that part of her background. Like, she knows the game. You know?
Right.
So, like, you know, don't take that away. When you keep calling her a bartender, you're sort of taking away from her, like, one of her sort of, like, tools that she has. From her toolbox, and you're like misleading people. Don't not tell people she has some political experience. She knows how these things work as a staffer, and so don't take that away from her.
Look how much she's willing to write. I mean, as much as I don't really agree with her for the most part, but the Green New Deal, like, she put a lot of that into her perspective. Like, as much as you want to give her for it, she had that willingness to like spearhead it at 29 years old.
It's a brand new. In essence, it's a fresh idea.
Yeah.
Right. The electorate is hungry for new ideas. Right. Donald Trump, again. I'm listening to the debate, and he's talking about addressing the Fed. You know, it's kind of a new idea. It's from a Republican, in essence, right? Ron Paul talked about, but he's not really a Republican,
right?
He
only is for the debates,
right? For the debates, right? But now Donald Trump is a new idea, right? Build the wall, That's a new, in essence, it's really a new idea to like take that and campaign with it. You know what I mean? For the presidency.
Even most Republicans have been pro-amnesty.
Yeah, that's true. In recent times. And I think that's actually a huge mistake. Reagan did the whole amnesty thing back in 84 or something like that.
Even Bush did.
And guess what? Where were most of those illegals that received amnesty? Where were they living? Do you remember? Do you guys know? California.
Oh, okay.
And guess what? Amnesty happened in 84 from the hands of a Republican. And then continued again from the hands of a Republican and Bush Sr., right? Not Bush Jr. Are you talking about Bush Jr.?
I'm talking about Bush Jr. too.
He did. He started more accepting more of the European arrivals from all the devastated Balkan states and all that, right? Yeah, that's fine. But I'm really trying to go back to more of the Reagan example itself. Okay. The Reagan example is really important because he gave the amnesty, right, in 84. I think maybe in 88 again he wins California one more time, and then after that, I don't think we ever won California ever again. Mm. Went blue and never looked back.
Yeah, Reagan was the last one, and no, was it Reagan or was it Bush?
I feel like in 4 years the state turned blue and never turned back.
Because when Clinton won, that's when California was blue. Yeah. And then it's been blue ever since.
Right. And it's not going back.
No, it's never going back.
Yeah, exactly. So the way I see it is amnesty. It's like you're giving amnesty to a bunch of people who will never vote for you. You know what I mean? Mm. It's just they're not gonna. It's like you're gonna be a Republican. You're gonna be the nice guy. You're gonna give amnesty to all these people. They're gonna turn around and vote all against your interests.
Right.
I don't think that is I honestly do not think politically or even on a societal, cultural level. That is not that's not a transaction you make, right? There has to be a respect there. I don't care how transactional it sounds. I give you amnesty. You're going to vote for Republicans. You're going to vote for Americans. And yes, I'll state it right here. I do not want to give amnesty to certain groups of people because they don't vote the right way. Mm-hmm. I'm not, I can catch heat for that. I don't care because it's true, right? The very few actually do vote the right way. You have Cubans down in Florida that vote have Republican, a good chunk of them. They're coming directly from those regimes and they're seeing that. But a lot of these illegals coming from Central American countries and stuff, I don't think they have the same appreciation for freedom and some of these principles, and I think it's not a concept in their culture. I just feel and that's why they don't sympathize or empathize with Republicans when they talk about, or conservatives when they talk about freedom and principles, law and order. A lot of this stuff they can't empathize with it because they just don't have a culture of it. So that's my opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm sure I'll find out. But
yeah. Well, right or wrong, your opinion's validated for something, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come back to the rest of our discussion for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you.